think it's a combination of just lifelong experiences, having lived in many different countries, having you know, just exposure to different cultures. I think it was probably the most defining moment of my life in terms of shaping who I am. It all kind of brought different perspectives. I lived in Asia, I lived in Europe, and I lived in the United States, and they were all fundamentally different. From just everything from education to culture to family, everything brought kind of a different, unique approach to how people live their lives. My generation grew up in a time where we were just probably the first ones to be exposed to the internet while we were still in high school. And so for us, we saw an internet that was very free and open. It was this medium for exchanging information without restrictions. We saw the internet in its raw early form, and I think that defined a lot of what eventually turned into Spotflux here. We were trying to provide people with a more private, more secure connection to the internet with no restrictions regardless of location. So it's a mouthful, but essentially what it means is that we want you to be able to experience the internet without all the garbage, without viruses, without worrying about people tracking you, without worrying about if you're overseas, worrying about nation states spying on your activity. People in those countries that they live behind these massive firewalls. So the internet is really more of a product of what the government wants it to be than what the internet actually is. So the open exchange of information, the sharing of ideas is very restricted. If you look, China, you can't get to a lot of sites that you would be normally accessing here in the States. So you can't get to Facebook and YouTube, and LinkedIn's blocking is kind of on and off. But so some of that is very political, and some of it is also, for kind of economic reasons, for selfish reasons. Because if you can create your own Facebook and make that very profitable amongst the 1 billion people living in your country, it makes sense to not allow them to access the one that's already popular. Just recently, there's a set of, I believe it was Western European doctors that went to China to set up a cancer lab to try a very experimental new cancer treatment. As part of this treatment, there was also going to be a documentary filmed at the same time, so that if the results went as expected, it would be this great breakthrough in science and a great breakthrough for cancer research. So there is an Australian filmmaker that went over to China to film what was happening, and he wanted to release small bits of the documentary to the public for awareness, to bring more people into the cancer treatment labs. He wasn't able to do so because the only thing he really knew how to do is post it on YouTube or some of the common sites. He couldn't get to them, so we found Spotflux. He was able to use Spotflux, and by using us to get the information out, he let us know that there was a direct impact in the cancer facility's ability to bring in new patients. So stories like that are I think what keep us going and motivate us. It's knowing that that good is coming out of this. The number one threat for consumers is much different than, say, what it would be for a company or a government organization. For consumers, I think it's all about identity and the protection of your identity. Really, I mean, your entire life is tied to your identity, whether it be your ability to get loans, ability to have any sort of reputation at your workplace or wherever. If your identity is compromised, your entire life becomes compromised. So we try to find things that threaten identity, whether it be invasive tracking of ad networks, whether it be malware that's designed specifically to steal your bank account information or your social security number, such as the Zeus Trojans. I think first and foremost is have the confidence to do what you believe is right and what you think is going to be successful. And I think the number one thing that stops people is second guessing themselves, or maybe being scared of the risks. Funny enough, I spent the first 10 years or so of my career working for regular businesses and or for the federal government directly, and I always wanted to start my own business, and not until I had a family and had my firstborn son did I actually quit and leave and start my own business. And so in retrospect, it's kind of like, well, it's a lot harder now to do that. And once you have a family, it would have been a lot easier to do it before. Why did I wait so long? So I think the problem was second guessing myself, and maybe being too scared of a risk that is a lot more perceived than real. Once you get to a point where you actually start having employees and your business is growing, I think creating the right culture has a lot to do with the success of your company. So making sure that everybody is kind of working in the same wavelength as you, ensuring that there's not too much of a cultural mismatch has a big implication on your ability to carry on. Because especially as a small business, the last thing you want to do is be distracted by employee issues or workplace issues. You just don't have the time, the resources to deal with that. It's just immensely important. Find the people who are just as passionate, if not more, than you about what you're doing. At least for a software company, it's pretty easy, right? The first question is, so have you tried our product? If the answer is no, the interview is pretty much over. And the second question is explain to me what it is that we're doing and how important is that to you? What does it mean to you to come in and work for this company, right? And so I think you get the right answer. When you get the right answer, and that's the first step. The second step is making sure they have the skill set and talent you need. I spend a lot of the time here at Spotflux thinking about how the flow of information affects society, how the improvements in technology end up creating a global economy where anyone in any part of the world can be equal in terms of the value that they bring. And so the only thing stopping people from achieving that is limited access to information and communications. And so we like to think a lot about the problems around information and communications and technology, and what can we be doing to kind of level the playing field on a global scale so that everybody can participate equally and move kind of society forward. There's no need to restrict technology talent to a few countries in the world because, frankly, there's just not enough talent to go around. So the more that we can provide information to people overseas, the more likely we are to have more talent come out of the pool. So, we have a pretty decent education system here in the United States, and to think about the fact that not everybody has that same opportunity is very much heartbreaking. So it does change your perspective. I think you become a lot more grateful for what you have, and you become a lot more aware of what others don't.